I got some bad news for MJF fans out there just days before he steps into the squared circle and challenges Hangman Page for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. It's something in which no one is talking about and really is flying under the radar, which is really shocking to me, and therefore I wanted to bring it to you guys in today's video. Before we get to that, let's set the stage because it was this week on AEW Dynamite where AEW decided let's do one of the most random yet logical angles that I've seen in pro wrestling in quite some time. So let's look at it like this. Heading into this show, MJF has been feuding with Mark Briscoe in addition to Hangman Page. So Hangman Page comes out there, he cuts a promo, he talks about getting attacked by MJF in the parking lot last week because that's how MJF likes to handle things. He likes to sneak attack and he doesn't like to handle his problems. He doesn't like to confront his problems head on because he doesn't have the balls to do that. And so he said that it's just a waste of everyone's time to call MJF to the ring to get the piss beaten out of him because MJF is a gutless coward. And once MJF signed the Casino Gauntlet contract, there is no more backstabbing, and that he swore that he would put his ostrich leather boots up MJF's rear end. So this leads to MJF having his music played, but MJF doesn't come out. Instead, Tony Schiavone stood up and said that MJF has a message for Page backstage, but if Page leaves the ring, then something bad is going to happen to him. So Page stays into the ring because, well, that's a very cryptic message and warning. So he's like, well, I'll just stay out here. And so then we see MJF, and he said that just remember, Seabiscuit, when you're angry, you are the most vulnerable. And so we see Ricochet in the gates of agony with Mark Briscoe. Now, Briscoe is tied up and barely awake. MJF said that Page must give him 3 simple requests, or he is going to essentially set Mark Briscoe on fire and turn him into Kentucky Fried Chicken. So what are these requests? He said at Forbidden Door, the title can change via DQ, count out, and he doesn't have to use his Casino Gauntlet contract for the match. Okay, so then they do a little countdown, and sure enough, Page caves, gives him what he wants, and says, hey, at Forbidden Door, I'm coming for you. So that is that. Then I was looking at betting odds, and I think this says the picture. I think it spells out what you need to be looking at. So the betting odds, according to betonline.ag, they are out. And it is very interesting. Hangman Page is a minus 600 favorite against MJF, who is a plus 350 favorite. Now, if you look at these odds just on face value, you start to raise some questions. Why is MJF such a massive underdog? I understand that Hangman Page just won the AEW World Heavyweight title from John Moxley at All In Texas, but this is MJF we're talking about. When AEW first booked this match right after Texas, a lot of people were questioning it. Why would you book one of your biggest matches, one of your biggest feuds with your 2 biggest stars at a Forbidden Door pay-per-view event, especially right before All Out? Well, that says a lot, and it sets the picture. Here's the bad news. MJF is not winning the AEW World Heavyweight Championship at Forbidden Door. He is going to be taking an L. Now, logic would tell you, if you're MJF, why wouldn't you just hire someone to attack him? Therefore, he wins via DQ, and therefore he wins the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. That would be a logical move, especially as a heel. That would get a ton of heel heat. And why wouldn't AEW do such a thing, considering this is not going to be the main event of the show, because the lights out steel cage match is. So we are not getting a clean finish whatsoever in this match. I don't know how we're going to get out of this, but MJF is not winning the AEW World Heavyweight title, especially since he can have the fallback, which is, hey, MJF doesn't win the title here. Guess what? MJF can win the title another time because he does not have his Casino Gauntlet contract on the line. Therefore, he can lose. He can get clean beat in the ring, absolutely dominated by Hangman Page, yet he can still go and challenge for the AEW World Heavyweight title yet again at any time that he wants because he has that contract. So from a heel standpoint, it is very, very well done. But I just don't know how they're going to get out of the Hangman Page MJF. I guess you could do a time limit draw if you really wanted to, because you can't do a DQ. So how are you going to do that necessarily? I don't know. But it's a fascinating development. And if you look at these other odds, they're interesting as well. So, um, you know, the lights out steel cage match. You have the baby faces as the big favorites, right? Omega, Bushi, Allen, Tanahashi, Will Ospreay. They're favored to go over Toni Storm. She's a minus 300 favorite to go over Athena and retain the women's title. You have Okada as a massive minus 500 favorite over Swerve. I would have actually put the title on Swerve here. I think that's a mistake. And then obviously Mercedes Moné is a massive favorite as well in her own match. So I like the fact that they're putting MJF in the world heavyweight title picture. I love a feud with him and Hangman Page. I think that's a great pairing. I just question how you're going to get out of the finish. How are you going to protect MJF? How are you going to protect Hangman Page? Like I said, if I had to guess, my leading speculation is we are going to be getting a time limit draw here, and then they move on with it. And maybe they save the rematch for All Out, because here's another thing. It's like, okay, let's say you do a time limit draw. Well, you're going to have to do a rematch. So when would that be? Logic would tell you that'd be All Out. Right, All Out's in September. They're going to be going head to head with WWE. That would make sense. You could, I guess, have Hangman beat MJF, just do it clean, and then MJF kind of, he disappears for a little bit, and then he comes back, and maybe you can save that for like a Full Gear in November, or maybe like a Dynasty. What's the October event? Wrestle Dream, one of the most ridiculous pay-per-view events. It's so unneeded, but you could technically do it in October if you wanted to. So those are really the options that AEW has. Clean finish, delay the rematch, time limit draw, immediately do it all out. It just depends on, okay, do you want to put the title on MJF or not? Because if you want to put the title on MJF, just have him beat Hangman and call it a day. But since there is those stipulations in the line, since it's not going to be the main event, since MJF can get a rematch, there's going to be some type of flunky finish here. I just don't know how they're going to get to it exactly.